What's happening, good people? Welcome to the channel. I'm Wes, aka Mr. Budget Watch, and today we're taking a look at the San Martin SN0101-G. This was provided to the channel at a discount by the San Martin official store. This does not have to go back, but as you know, that doesn't really affect how my review is going to go down. You can find a link to this watch in the video description. So let's begin. Kicking things off with the size, and we have a diameter of 37.9. This does go up to 41.3 if you add the crown. Lug to lug is a slim wrist friendly 46.7mm, and the thickness is a shade under 11 at 10.8mm. The lug width, a strap friendly 20mm, and finally the crown is 6.5mm. The case is made from 316L stainless steel, and it comes on a quick release leather strap. The crystal is a top hat mineral, which is a touch of a shame, and I would have liked to have seen sapphire. The water resistance is quoted at 50 meters, which I think is fine given the dressier nature of this watch. On the supplied strap, it weighs 53 gram. It also features a pull push crown and a screw down case back. Finally, you get the 0101 in a few different colours and styles. So the colours, there are the black dial I have, a silver sunburst and a salmon sunburst as well, which are all very nice. There's also a version that has a small seconds if you want a fan of a traditional three-hander. I also want to mention that San Martin offer this watch in both branding and unbranded if you want a fan. So let's take a closer look. Starting with the top hat mineral crystal, and I of course would have liked to have seen sapphire used here, but it is what it is, and we've got what we've got, and we're just going to have to make do with it. But I actually think mineral is passable on a dress watch, because you're not going to be, wearing it in situations where you might, accidentally damage it. Bordering the crystal is a very nice polished slope bezel. It's nothing fancy, but it definitely works well with the aesthetic and the look the watch is going for. Under the crystal you can spot that lovely sunburst dial. It's not an inky jet black, it's actually a little bit more dark grey that shifts into a lighter grey, though in some lighting situations it does tend to look a little bit more black. It's not the most striking sunburst I've ever seen, and if that's what you really want, then I suggest you look at the silver or the salmon instead. That seems to have a more prominent look to it. Around the perimeter is a simple train track style minute track, which does tie in nicely with the vintage look of the watch. The indices are applied and all high polished. The 12 has a double tapered baton, whereas the 3, 6 and 9 has a single done in a very similar fashion. The rest of the indices are just a plain baton style, but are all done to a really good standard, and again fit with the simplistic aesthetic. As for text, it's kept to a bare minimum with just San Martin printed in cursive under the 12, and like previously mentioned, if that's too much, there's a sterile version too. Last up is the hands, which are a sort of flowing and organic leaf style that are again high polish. These again are well done and make this dial quite a light catcher. The second hand is a very thin needle style with a hex logo on the counter end. I wish they'd used something else, because I think it's a little bit too modern looking and does throw off the vintage vibe this watch is giving off a little bit. As for the sides, they are brushed and done to San Martin's usual great standard. It's smooth, linear and looks great. The brushing is also sandwiched between two slithers of tastefully done polishing. I think this adds a touch of separation to it all, and it looks quite classy too. You'll also spot the drilled lugs, which is a nice touch, as well as those vintage-esque downturned lugs. The crown is extremely nice too. It has a lovely visual effect that makes it appear twisted, when in fact it's actually just all clever design, and I think it suits the watch perfectly. My only issue with the crown is the modern branding. I wish they've kept it consistent and perhaps engraved SM in a cursive style to fit with the text on the dial. Other than that though, it's very well done and actually one of the best I've seen at the price point. The case back is sterile and has no design work at all, no branding, no text of any kind. All you'll see is a mix of different surfaces to create a bit of visual interest, and that's about it. This is also screwed down, but I've never seen a case back like this or a tool that would actually work with it. So it might require one of those weird little ball screwy off things to get it off, or there might actually be a proper tool. I'm just not familiar with it. All in all, the case is impressive, though a few little design missteps bring it down a little. The strap. That doesn't really do anything to redeem these little things though. It's a leather with a subtle pebble effect, though the leather is not exactly what I'd call a good grade and does feel a little bit cheap compared to the rest of the watch. The texturing is well done, as is the stitching, but the leather is not the most supple and has a slight plastic feel. The inner leather isn't that nice either and definitely could be better. On the plus side, there are 7 adjustment holes and it's quick release too, which is always a bonus, though not necessarily needed in this case because we have drilled lugs, but it does make strap changes a lot easier. Another little ray of light is the nice taper from 20mm down to 17.2. It's not dramatic, but it does fit the style of the watch. The shorter side is much of the same, though here you'll find 2 leather keepers, one fixed and one floating. The buckle is pretty nice though. Solid, stainless steel, high polish and looks pretty great. Though again, the branding mismatch should have been addressed just for the sake of cohesion. On wrist, it's mostly nice, but again, that strap does tarnish it some. As mentioned, it's not the most supple and it is in fact quite rigid and doesn't feel the best on wrist. I mean, it's not unbearable to wear, but even after nearly 2 weeks of wear, it's not changed at all, it's not broken in or got any better. So I think you'd probably want to swap this out for something of a better quality if you want to make this a more regular wear. On a positive note, the adjustment holes mean it'll fit you guys with thicker wrists, though being on the last hole, it's not so much for the same if you've got slim wrists like myself. The watch, however, is better. The thin profile and size means it wears very nicely on a variety of different wrist sizes and will suit thinner and thicker alike. The damtail lugs definitely help with this too. As mentioned, it's not unbearable to wear, but what I would have expected a little better in the strap department, and I even wouldn't have minded a slight bump in price for a better strap. But I suppose it's definitely not a deal breaking issue and it's an easy fix, seeing as there are plenty of 20mm straps out there and you've probably even likely got some in your collection already, so it's a bit of a non-issue. Powering the 0101 is the Swiss Ronda 715, which from my experience is a very solid movement and nice to see at this price point. What's funny about this though is there are actually 2 different versions of this movement. One is Swiss made and one is Swiss parts. The Swiss made version is gold plated and has 5 jewels, whereas the Swiss part is nickel plated and only has 1 jewel. Well, I have actually been talking to San Martin and they have confirmed that we do get the premium version in this, which is the gold plated one and has the 5 jewels. It also has a battery life of up to 60 months, which is 5 years, which is great to see. It takes a 371 cell battery, which is also known as the SR920SW, if you need to swap one out. The accuracy of the movement is -10 to +20 seconds per month, and it also has a hacking seconds. As for in use, it feels very nice. The adjustment is buttery smooth and there is no feedback, no grating, no bumps, just nice and smooth. The cram though, although it looks amazing, it's not that great and the knurling is a little bit slippery. Luckily though, the movement isn't too resistive, so that sort of balances it out somewhat. And it's also quartz, so you don't need to use it all that often anyway. As for the markers, it does hit a few on the right way around, but it does miss more than it hits. This is a very common issue with Swiss quartz, and to be honest, I'm over it. It doesn't really bother me as much as it used to, but if it does, then unfortunately mine does miss a lot of its markers. I will however say that this watch would be the perfect candidate for the Seiko VH31 sweeping quartz, so maybe a version 2 with that movement would be a pretty good call for San Martin. To wrap up, the SN0101 is a beautiful dress watch that is well done and solid, but does suffer some little issues like the inconsistent branding, subpar strap and that slippery crown. Though I'm not sure this is enough not to give it a solid recommendation, as it gets far more right than it does wrong. It's far from perfect, but for around £100 I still think it's a fantastic watch, and with a few minor tweaks and upgrades it could be amazing. What do you guys think? Thanks for watching and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, like the video if you enjoyed it, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads, and of course follow me on social media at Mr. Budget Watch. Thanks again, I'll see you soon.